I'm Kyle Boone, one handsome SOB, and you're listening to the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast.
Okay, and we're back. We still have Chris Maloney from the Sharpshooter podcast. How are you, Chris?
Currently got the WWE Network on, well, somewhat mute, but they're doing this has been on for a while, but they're doing the Mustafa Ali special. Just talking about, there's one guy that I tell you that's gifted right there, and WWE, has tried on, I guess, a few occasions to try to make him, more of a household name and stuff like that, and obviously injury. Everybody knows the WrestleMania story, but here's a guy that used to be apparently a former cop. And,
in Chicago.
And he reminds me of that dude probably about 10, 15 years ago in WWE. I think Rico, I think his name was.
Yep.
He was part of Billy Gunn's little skit there. But anyways, he was a cop in Las Vegas and went WWE and then went back to Vegas to become a cop. My kitten says hello. Mustafa Ali's a lot more talent, I would say, than Rico. But the one good thing about WWE right now is the network and the backstories and the chronicles and stuff like that. So even though it's on mute, I'm looking forward probably to watching a little bit later on because I still haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, WWE has definitely kept up with their great productions of these little documentaries that they have for the network. It's just unfortunate that they're not able to be as creative lately with their in-ring product or at least presentation, which I wasn't planning on going there, but since you're talking about WWE, let's quickly take down Super Showdown that happened last Friday, 2 p.m. our time, coming to us from Saudi Arabia.
Did you say take down Super Showdown?
Yes.
That show took down itself from the reviews online.
Exactly. Just so many bad things have come out of it, and a lot of the superstars are not satisfied with the fact that they went. It basically fell really flat with everybody. So we're not going to go really in depth with it. And if you want to look back at it, do it with precaution that you're not going to get a lot of satisfaction out of it. But if you just want to watch an event or have something in the background while you're doing something, then hey, sure, put on Super Showdown. But a few things came out of it, not too significant, as I said. Quickly running down the card, the Usos defeated the Revival in a tag team match on the pre-show. We saw, though, while they lost, they got a tag team title shot against Ryder and Hawkins on Monday Night Raw. The Usos were put in it to make it a triple threat tag team match, and the Revival actually won the match and are now tag team title holders after Ryder and Hawkins have been basically relegated to main event. Seth Rollins defeated Baron Corbin. There was a tease of the briefcase being cashed in, like Brock had said the previous Monday. Seth beat him to the punch by doing the stomp, and so the briefcase was not actually cashed in. Finn Balor defeated Andrade. Balor was actually dressed as the Demon, and he retained the Intercontinental title. Shane McMahon, with the help of Drew McIntyre, defeated Roman Reigns. I think we both kind of saw that coming. Lars Sullivan defeated the Lucha House Party in a handicap match by disqualification because the Lucha House Party wouldn't listen to rules and the referee counting. It kind of seems odd that Lars is the heel, but being beat up by, or at least the faces are being dominated by this heel, but still not being able to do anything when it's 3-on-1. It's just a weird situation. Randy Orton defeated Triple H. They actually went 25 minutes, almost 26 minutes. I think I did pick Orton to do that. Braun Strowman defeated Bobby Lashley in probably one of the better matches of the night, and that went about just over 8 minutes. Kofi Kingston, once again, a face, needing his partner Xavier Woods to cheat on his behalf, to defeat Dolph Ziggler and retain the WWE Championship. So once again, you got a face needing to take an advantage, then a heel calling him out, and now we have a cage match just to keep Woods out of there, coming up at Stomping Grounds. Totally reverse logic of heel versus face. A gentleman by the name of Mansoor, he's from Saudi Arabia, looks a lot like Mustafa Ali for that matter, but he won the 51-man battle royal because there was actually 51 people instead of just 50, but they were all crammed into the ring, and you really couldn't identify any certain spots because while you were looking on one side of the ring, your friend might have been looking at the other side of the ring, seeing somebody else get dumped, and you could really never go, "Oh, I saw that. Did you see that?" and have stories to share and tell with each other. And the main event saw The Undertaker take on Goldberg and defeat him. It was a very sloppy match. Goldberg apparently knocked himself silly when he went into the turnbuckle. There was some blood gushing, almost reminiscent of Dustin in his match against his brother Cody at AEW Double or Nothing. He dropped Goldberg, pronouns, dropped Undertaker really awkwardly in a feeble attempt at the jackhammer. Undertaker did a really ugly looking tombstone and got the victory, but reports have it that it was supposed to go longer, but they saw how sloppy the thing was, and the referee got a cue to say, go to the finish early, so it was like cut in half, thank God. And Goldberg apparently collapsed after everything happened. So it's really a cluster of a really bad show, as people have said, and watch at your own discretion. Chris, what are your thoughts on what happened during that event?
So I haven't seen this, won't watch it, won't look for it, won't PBR it, any of that sort of jazz that goes along with it, for a lot of reasons. But problem is, and there's so many avenues you could take on just the event alone, as far as trying to dissect certain matches, certain individuals, whatever the case may be. So a huge fan of this website called Fightful.com. They do a podcast as well. And Sean Rossap and Jimmy Van, who's had his, time as far as Canadian independent wrestling goes and stuff like that way back in the day. But the one point they brought up on a podcast I listened to yesterday was, okay, you basically go from the States over there to Saudi Arabia. You fly 19 hours. You get off the plane. You get prepped. All of a sudden, now you're dealing with 103-degree weather. So you're in a battle royal, 51-man, whatever the case may be, and you're in this thing for 4 seconds. So your entrance, your time to get down to that battle royal lasts longer than your actually entrance in the battle royal. Then you basically leave the ring, go backstage, change out of your gear, sit there until everybody's ready to go home, and then next thing you know, you're back on a 19-hour flight. So here's a question for you, Sean. Is it worth the money, the investment, to go over there just to get your name on somewhat of a pay-per-view, just because the money's good?
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of money to be able to do that. Like in this case, like some of those guys probably would benefit more just to stay at home. Maybe somehow they run a house show somewhere in the States, North America, wherever, and send some of the bigger guys over to Saudi Arabia and still have your 10 matches, but meaningful matches as opposed to here's a battle royal and, as you said, 4 seconds later you're gone, and that money can still be spread out bigger to those guys who actually did decide to go over. Now I can understand people like Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan not going due to their beliefs and support of people like Sami Zayn and the women of the WWE. There was an attempt to get Natalya and Alexa Bliss on the card, and right till the last minute, they were still trying, and they got shut down. So I guess that is one of the positives, but in the long run, it's not worth it just for that amount of time, unless it's a huge payday that's going to set you up for a while. You might as well just stay at home and let somebody else deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one aspect of it. It's like you hit the nail on the head. The fact is, if you don't want to go, and I've read that performers that didn't want to go aren't going to be disciplined. They didn't have to go, which is great. But you had the opportunity to stay at home with your family. You know what I mean? You had the opportunity maybe to work another house show, like you just mentioned. So it's interesting to see why some of the guys in the Battle Royal chose to go. I mean, probably never to be told unless they get released, but whatever the case may be. One of the other big things about it, storyline-wise, is WWE. Nothing's ever going to make sense, especially in 2019. But the problem, what happens is you have a fan like me who in 2019 loves New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, NXT, Smash Wrestling, companies like that, AEW. And it's because of, guys who aren't, 6'4" and 300 pounds. And back in the old school days, I loved it because I was a kid. And now at 43 years old, when you start to understand a little bit more, you love guys like AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan in the WWE. You love guys like Kenny Omega. Chris Jericho still performing at the age he's at is pretty damn cool. In saying that, you have a guy, main event Goldberg versus The Undertaker, and Goldberg is a walking disaster, and he has been for the past 20 years. Forget about the hype. He put Bret Hart out, and that kind of pisses me off still to this day. You have a guy like Matt Riddle, goes online, speaks the truth about who Goldberg is. He's basically an egotistical maniac who will do anything for a payday, and right now just to be able to get out there for his kid or whatever the case may be, guys like that should be out of the business, because when a guy like Matt Riddle, who again has worked for Smash Wrestling, has worked for companies like PWG, is saying stuff like that, there is truth to it. Now that's one side of the things. Offer Goldberg enough money, he's going to come back to wrestling and perform in a country that doesn't allow women's wrestling, which is complete BS to me. The other side of things, and this makes a lot more sense to a lot more wrestling fans, is right now, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, Sean, but the fact is they are destroying the legacy of The Undertaker. I watched one match from the last Saudi show, and that was Taker and Kane versus DX, and there was a huge breakdown then, and I haven't watched this match, and I won't watch this match between him and Goldberg, but right now, just let him go off in the sunset, put him in the Hall of Fame, and leave him be, and let everybody enjoy the career that they knew that he had, as opposed to the career he's still trying to maintain for whatever stupid reason.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, there's a couple times, like, he hinted that he was done at WrestleMania twice, I believe, and yet is still coming back. Now, kudos to the man. He's dropped weight, gotten his surgeries, and as long as you're feeling great, be that way. Don't tarnish the legacy any further. I saw even on Aftermath, Anthony Corelli had mentioned it, formerly Santino Marella, that we're getting to the point where these guys are legends and you looked up to them for all the great things that they did. They need to go so you remember that, because eventually, in the state that they're doing right now, where they're having sloppy matches and not putting on their best performances, you're actually going to start looking at that rather than what they did do. And I guess it's a horrible way of putting it at the same time, but people more now remember Chris Benoit for what his last days were compared to all his wrestling. Sloppy wrestling is going to be their legacy as opposed to the classic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, and this idiot's all over the friggin' YouTube right now, but Ric Flair, and I say that because there was the legend in the ring, and then there's the guy outside of the ring. And I mean, here's a guy here that decided to have that one last WrestleMania match and go out riding on the Dudley Boy's shoulders, I think the very next night on Raw. And then sure enough goes and goes to TNA and kind of tarnishes his legacy, Shawn Michaels should have left it at WrestleMania. He didn't. He tarnished his legacy by performing in the ring one last time in a country, again, that doesn't like women's wrestling for probably a huge paycheck. So it's stuff like that. And you wonder why the ratings are so bad WWE-wise right now. But I tell you this, with them going to Fox in October, it'd be interesting to see what happens between now and then.
Yeah, they have to do a lot to change things around and not be turning